going through the process. We work a lot together on active Airbnbs that are getting purchased and then the new owners and what the process is going to be. And so I'm trying to like bring back the conversation. Buying an active short-term rental is something that a lot of people have been reaching out to me about. And I know we've had some conversations just because we're kind of linking the two of our minds and our experience together to really have a good full picture of strategy for someone purchasing. And I'm realizing more and more it's really important to have a plan before you even really put in an offer. Like when you're going to look at the properties, what are you looking for? What are some of the things that you feel are things to look for when you're out on your property search in this position? Whether you're buying it because you're like, I want to buy a business, or I'm needing a tax write-off, or I just think it's fun and I want to have a short-term rental in Joshua Tree.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's goals are different, and it's good to really figure out what your goals are ahead of time, and then go into it knowing that this is not just about buying a cute house. It is about buying a business, and what are the red flags that you need to look for ahead of time? What are the opportunities that might be there?
Red flags.
Yeah.
Red flags
are most important to be aware of ahead of time. And I don't think
they're always as obvious as
no.
people may think.
Yeah.
Especially out here.
Yeah.
And things have shifted quite a bit in the last few years.
Totally. And I think just because something's been running as an Airbnb and is permitted and they have their short-term rental and they're, doing well and they have great reviews doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't red flags. And I don't think people are aware of that.
So I know I have my kind of list of things. What are the main things for you that you've had issues with getting a short-term rental permit, even if it was already active before?
Yeah, I think unpermitted work is the biggest, especially out here. Things that are being operated as bedrooms but aren't bedrooms. So now you're looking at a house that's 4-bedroom. This just happened actually to somebody who I'm working with, and they bought the home thinking it was 4 bedrooms and their occupancy was going to be 10 guests. And then 2 of the bedrooms on the tax records are not bedrooms. So now, they have to go and get those bedrooms converted so that they're able to use it as a short-term rental at the occupancy level that they want. So that's
so then it's one. Like the price of getting it converted essentially plus the loss in the occupancy. And so I kind of on the side of how much will that cost. And I know there's, depending on if it was an addition that was not permitted as an actual structure, that's one thing. Then maybe it just wasn't, it was livable space that got converted to a bedroom but didn't actually get it on tax record. Maybe that's a smaller price point to evaluate for the sale. But what does that equate to in the actual like income for the property?
I mean, that makes a huge difference.
An example of numbers of what, just say the house was doing X amount in a year at 10, what would be that same house at 6? Would that be something that could even be?
I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to, give a number. But, I mean, you could lose 20% of income.
Yeah, it's significant, especially if you have like a tight margin or if you're,
totally.
So again, like understanding and having a plan going into it before you ever even really get into escrow or anything when you're looking for the properties. And so that's kind of what my main thing is when you're looking for it. And sometimes you can see those red flags, and if you know how to identify them, then you can see that as an opportunity. My opinion was it's an opportunity when I see something like that to get a better deal. If representing the buyer, if I'm representing the seller, then I'm going to advise them on maybe getting some of those things taken care of before they list the property. But I think those are all things that can equate into it. And I think the difference between maybe purchasing something as your home and you don't really care, is the deck permitted, is not, you don't care because you're going to use it, but no one's coming to really necessarily check that in order for you to have your short-term rental permit.
Totally.
But an unpermitted deck can lead to you getting denied your short-term rental permit unless you get that into compliance.
And I think the most important thing for that is just because they have their short-term rental permit and they're operating doesn't mean it, especially here, as you said, things have changed so much that in the past you really could get away with all those things. You cannot get away with those things anymore. So I think people look at it and they say, "Oh, well, it's already permitted, so it's not going to be a problem."
Totally.
It's going to be a problem.
Well, I think we have quite a few case studies of what we're doing, and I think that one of our goals has been to start modeling out and case studying and be able to really offer that advisement and share that information more freely.
Yeah.
Because, not everyone really knows or has the experience to have that information. But one example is I was hired to do the permit for a pool deck and hot tub at this cute little house in Joshua Tree. And it was an active short-term rental when the person purchased it a few years ago. 5-star, super cute, all the things. It's completely renovated, designed well, all the things. So on title, short-term is a single family residence. So it's got the short-term rental permit, it's a single family residence and title, all these things. How would you know that isn't, that isn't the case? It took us into the second round of review through building and safety before they flagged this property as a recreational cabin. And so that put obviously the pool, deck, and hot tub permits on hold because they're not going to issue those until the rec cabin is dealt with. And therefore now we have to go through the process of converting a recreational cabin to a single family residence. Once that's approved, then we can go back to finishing the permits for the pool deck and hot tub. So this is spread out like now a year process. Yeah. So a year to hold on to a property that you thought was just an active, successful short-term rental that you were just going to continue operating can be a massive hit for somebody. I mean, for anybody.
Yeah.
But not everyone could even maybe get through that year and then have to spend all of the money on getting, the plans done, the permits, everything. Yeah. And that's just one of many examples. Yeah. And I know you have a ton of similar things that have happened with people's active Airbnbs or short-term rentals where it wasn't even necessarily purchased, but is this happening for you? Yeah. Just like during the permit, the same owner even?
Yeah. So we had one where they worked with a licensed contractor who put in a container pool and a deck, and the contractor told them that it was permitted. When they got their short-term rental permit, it was approved, no problem. Fast forward 2 years, they go to renew and the county said, "Oh, the pool and the deck are not permitted." And they were like, "What do you mean?" Like it was. And the contractor never finalized their permits.
Ooh, so make sure you ask your contractor for the final permit.
Oh yeah, 100%. So important.
And proof and also proof that it was final, because
yeah,
I have a lot of these where the permit was issued, but it was never inspected, and you have a certain amount of time before you have to get inspected before it no longer is valid. And so they're like, "Well, we got a permit for it."
Right.
Yeah.
But it was never finalized. And that's what happened in this situation. And so when you go for your renewal, you only have a certain amount of time to get the short-term rental permit renewed. They ran out of time. So they lost their permit. The house sat empty for several months while we waited for the permit, and that's a huge hit.
So what kind of loss is that?
I mean, that's
in terms
a huge
of revenue
hit. And then, I mean, they were closed maybe 6 months. I mean, half a year worth of revenue. And there's nothing, you can't operate.
And then even when you go to, you decide, okay, now I don't want to continue with this. I'm just going to go ahead and list it and let someone else deal with it because I can't continue. Right. I'm at a certain loss point, then you're listing it as revenue for the year being much lower.
Oh yeah.
Right. So that's another thing is like when you get to those points and you're asking for the numbers and the data of the active short-term rental that you're looking to purchase, what do you ask for? Like I always obviously provide, the numbers that I get from the client or the property manager of here's my year-to-date, revenue, but is that it? Are there other things you think are worthwhile to really dive into the data?
I think you have to make sure that the data you're given is good data. So
Well, how do you verify that?
I when I'm looking at that data, I want the actual reports from Airbnb and whatever other platforms they may be on. I don't just want their report. I want to see the actual numbers from Airbnb, because then you know that they're legitimate and correct.
You need like a little bit more proof.
Yeah, and then in addition to all the revenue, also all the expenses for the house. So you want to know what
How
the
much it costs to
utility
operate.
bills are going to look like. What is, the pool costs, and all of those things. As much data as you can possibly get are helpful.
And then, I mean, obviously, some big ticket things when showing houses is, a lot of short-term rentals defer all the maintenance. They're extracting the money out, or maybe they're not doing as well, so they're not putting the money back in, but the house is getting wear and tear as a business, as a hospitality space, and not just as a person's home. So, there's going to be normal wear and tear items.
Yeah.
But some of the deferred maintenance things can add up to some big ticket dollar amounts. And maybe they're not broken yet, or they're not, but they are soon. And how to kind of identify some of those big ticket items. That's something like I'm always looking for when looking at the buyer, going, okay, well, that looks like it's on its way out, or that looks like it's not to code, and just kind of preemptively pointing those things out or making listing them. But what else? What are big things that you see that even when you're managing it, that maybe owners don't want to spend on until a future date that may not come?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think HVAC is a huge area where it should be maintained, twice a year. They should be, somebody should be coming in and maintaining and doing the service. Sometimes that gets missed in certain houses. The pool equipment is another place. If the HVAC system goes out, if the pool goes out, equipment goes out, that's a huge.
Yeah, you can't really run your house in the middle of summer without air conditioning.
Yeah, exactly, especially here. So guests will not be happy.
You'll be serving them lots of frozen drinks.
Exactly. Yep. So yeah, we just had a house where the HVAC is being replaced this week. It was time, and as a homeowner, those are the things you need to take care of. But had that house been for sale and those things were on the last legs.
I mean, I've had things just as a homeowner out here where, one of the split unit HVACs, like something outside, someone bumped into the coil, like the little coil piece, and just, you couldn't even really tell, but there was just enough of slight like bump into it that all of the, is it the Freon?
Was coolant.
And so I didn't know, because it was in the time of year where I wasn't using that air conditioner. It's in my guest room. I barely use it. And then someone was staying and I went to turn it on and it was just blowing warm air.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Why is it blowing warm air? But I mean, that just to come back out and refill that thing is pricey.
Yeah.
And so those are little things that just add up over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I can only imagine, if you're not making sure to like take a look, I mean, just have everyone come and do like a little inspection. Like, what would they inspect it, clean it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Especially HVAC, that's what we like. Twice a year, they do their service. In the spring and the fall, getting ready for the hot and the cold season. Make sure everything's up to
You in particular, you're the kind of property manager that really is hands on with that stuff and wants to see maintenance happen and not be deferred.
Yeah.
As a business model, what do you think should be kind of baked into the price of what you're going to spend operating when it comes to maintenance like this?
Yeah. If you're doing service on your HVAC on a normal, on the regular basis, in the long run, those systems are going to last longer. And that's just anything in the home, especially in a rental, because, guests aren't always gentle on things. So if you can keep the service and the maintenance level, it will save you in the long run. Same with the pool equipment. We trust our pool techs to really keep an eye on those things. And of course, as management, we're always in there doing our own inspections as well. And then there are other things here, like just thinking about how we have such hard water here, and like like preemptive things like, oh, let's get a water softener. It's going to make the experience better, but it's also going to make your appliances and things last longer in the long run. So there's a lot of little maintenance things that people don't always think about ahead of time that will save them money in the long run. So,
But that hard water is no joke.
I know
It creeps on you fast.
Yeah, and not only just that, it's also like I don't know, we have
Dishwashers.
houses with absolutely, and like, but just like houses with like black faucets or black tile, and that hard water
Cleaning it.
stain is impossible to get out. So better to prevent it.
Okay, so maintenance is a big one,
Yeah.
and kicking down the line. So I always say, okay, I'm the buyer. I see it as an opportunity because, okay, so I know lately we've had a lot of people reaching out that are looking for the tax savings advantages of buying a short-term rental. I was going to be giving assessment as I was looking at properties for a buyer. This one was an active short-term rental. It's cute. It was doing okay. How can we increase the revenue on this? We see some things like there's a detached garage. So there's opportunity here to add value in getting that into a livable space or maybe an ADU. And then you always are putting it on the list as the in-ground pool.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge, and I think that when you find an operating Airbnb that's doing well, it's cute, but there is a lack of certain amenities, that is a huge opportunity. So this house, I mean, we estimated with our projection will do between 50 and 70% better than it was doing before by adding in the in-ground pool. So that's a huge one.
Potentially, that is some sort of, those are expenses that will be put in. That could be maybe a tax saving for someone who's looking for that specific benefit as well. So there's always different ways to look at it. So it's really good to kind of come up with a plan and what your goals are and why you're doing, why are you purchasing this? What are your goals? Come up with an entire plan before you're ever even looking. So now when you're out looking for the property, you already have in mind things that what that model is going to look like for use in your specific situation with your goals. I think for some people, I will let them know, that's why we do the inspections. That's why there is this contingency.
Yeah.
Like, you want to go through that due diligence. You need to do the due diligence. You need to do the permit research. Like, I think everyone at this point should be pulling permit research.
Yeah.
Should be checking for the tax assessor to confirm the bedroom and bathroom count on record. And sometimes it's an easy fix. Like if there's a house and it's say on tax record 3.2, but you see 4.2 on the listing and in the house, it doesn't mean that you can't turn it to a 4.2.
Right.
But what does that look like? How much is it going to cost? Is it going to delay you being able to operate?
Yeah. I think it's better to know obviously ahead of time than to have a surprise down the line.
How many times have you seen when you go to, like you had an active permit or an active short-term rental permit, and then new or maybe even the same owner goes to renew or get a new permit, and they have flagged unpermitted structures such as a deck. That's always seems to be a big one out here.
Yeah.
But have you seen that a lot? Because
in the last couple of years, they've gotten much stricter on what
the county
they're checking.
So just
the county,
the
and the town. I mean, everywhere here.
Okay.
And I think that's not just happening in our area. I think that's
probably
happening in other areas as well. But here, I think it's a particularly interesting place because it's Wild West.
So many things were unpermitted for so long.
Yeah.
Especially, I think the older houses you really have to pay attention to. But I've had brand new builds that have had the same thing. I've had builds that didn't have their certificate of occupancy as a new build that I've seen be on the market.
Yeah.
So, you really never know.
Right.
Like once I've seen it once,
crazy. Yeah.
Like very cautious.
Yeah.
People are always asking me, well, they have bookings out through however many months, and how does that work? Once I'm the new owner, do I get those bookings? Do I get the listing? Do I keep the name? Can I have their Airbnb or not Airbnb, their Instagram handle? Like there's all these kinds of questions that come up, but really specifically around transferring the bookings themselves. And so I know for the permit situation, the new owner would go apply for their short-term rental permit. They have 30 days.
In the county, it's 30 days.
Okay.
So if you buy an existing Airbnb that has a permit in good standing, as the buyer, the new owner, you can operate. You can start operating day one. But you have 30 days to apply for your own permit. And then, that takes a little time to get, but as long as you're doing the process, you're fine and you can operate. The problems come in are, first, like we've been discussing, is if something pops up that now is unpermitted or whatever, then you may, it's going to delay you getting it.
So what if, okay, you're using the active permit number from the previous owner, which you can, and you're in process in getting the new permit for yourself, and you're operating because you can.
Yeah.
And in that new application, they flag something that was unpermitted on property. Well, then what is going to happen?
I don't know. I haven't had that specific thing happen yet, but they very well can tell you that you can't operate until that thing is fixed.
Very specific, but my mind's like, that's why you really want to know what's unpermitted and have a plan. If there's something unpermitted and you know about it and you're moving forward, you're just going to have an action plan to get it done within a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
I think like the really minutia of moving over those bookings, because that's part of the value of maybe buying this property. You see, okay, it's booked through the next 3 months and I want that revenue to come in. And that's part of your plan, your strategy of what you're going to buy it. How do you make sure that is just smoothly taken care of?
So that is, and every listing is different, but in general, you're not going to get the listing because Airbnb listings are non-transferable. There are certain situations when the seller was aware of that and set it up specifically knowing if and when I go to sell this property, I'm going to be able to transfer it. And that's something important for people who are owners of Airbnbs. There is a value in the listing. So if you can set this up in a way where you can transfer the listing, you should do that. But most people just have their Airbnb listing on their own personal Airbnb account. It's tied to other properties. That listing, they're not going to be able to transfer it. And technically, you're really not supposed to transfer these. So in general, when you're buying, chances are you're not getting the listing. That doesn't mean you can't get the bookings. Transfer is tricky. And if you're working with a property manager, they should be able to help you make this happen. If you're working on your own, again, you just have
you might need to get a little bit of advisement from someone on it.
But just knowing that, and that also impacts your revenue. So let's say you buy an Airbnb, 9 times out of 10, you're not getting the listing. You're going to start your own listing. And then, you have to build momentum from there because a brand new listing is not going to get the rates that the old listing did. Doesn't have the proof of the reviews just yet. So just know there'll be a little bit of a hit. And
like how long do you think that takes? Like
to build back up again?
Yeah, I always tell people a couple months.
Yeah, a couple months.
Okay.
In the before times, you would open and you would be right away. There wasn't a lot of momentum to be building. You already had your momentum and you were up and running and you were getting bookings, but now it's different.
Do you think that the fact that there's bookings on the calendar is something that's of value to the buyer?
There is. You have to know that the seller or their management, depending on who's running that particular listing, is going to help you rebook those. And most of the time, everyone that we've done like that, they were willing to help.
Yeah.
And Airbnb will also help, and the other platforms not as much, but you can they'll help you kind of transfer those over as well. But the person who's selling it or the person who's running it at the time of the sale will need to work with you on that, because you're going to create your new listing and then they're going to go to the people who are already booked and say, hey, we're selling this property. You could rebook at this new listing. Oftentimes we'll offer a slight discount.
Do 100% of people rebook, or is it
It's a high percentage.
It's high percent.
Probably 95% of the
Okay.
people will rebook.
So it is a value to see this is an active
yeah.
short-term rental. They have bookings on the calendar, and
Yeah.
that is already something that.
But you
can
just
be
can't
focused.
assume, you
Yeah.
know, that's
You really
something
have to have
a plan.
a plan for
Yeah.
it. What things like move the needle
Yeah.
in that transition time?
Yeah. I think, you know, especially when you're buying an already operating Airbnb, tastes change and trends
Yeah.
change. So, you know, a couple years ago, everybody was putting in game rooms, but now those aren't as popular. And you know, it's just because I think trends have changed, people's travel habits have changed. So, you know, if you're buying an Airbnb that's already operating, it's doing well, but there's room for improvement. Those are the type of things that you can upgrade. And now we're seeing the wellness trend is huge, and you know that's kind of what we
one day I'm
focus
still
on.
gonna get my sauna rave. I'm gonna get
Oh,
someone
yeah.
to agree to it. There was someone who actually sent me a DM yesterday that said they were in. So
Oh, okay.
it might be happening after.
Oh my God. I hope it's one of my properties. That would be amazing.
But yeah, I think that wellness,
Yeah.
obviously, like really just like also like unique
Yeah, absolutely.
experiences
Yeah.
and how to
Totally.
make that happen. I know it's always a challenge because I'm like, okay, in my world,
Yeah.
I want to stay there and I want, you know, all these things to be there. Like I want like the essential oil towels in the refrigerator for my sauna experience. I want this, I want that. And then you're like, yeah, no. But I mean, ultimately it's like, what can you like, how can you push the limits of that and still have someone managing it and maintaining that level of hospitality at a short-term rental versus a hotel stay where there's, you know, spa amenities and daily, you know, there is a difference. But I think there's some really unique, wonderful things of why you want to stay at a short-term rental versus why you might stay at a hotel that has those things.
Right.
But how can you push the limits? Like I'm trying to push the limits here.
I think we are pushing the limits. I think for sure. And like I said, it's just
like, you know, I'm like, I want a humidifier upon arrival.
Humidifier's not happening. Because from a management standpoint, I look at that and I see all the mold that's going to grow in there.
Totally. No, I'm just laughing because I'm in my mind. It's like when I go to the hotel and I'm in the desert, if I'm in Las Vegas, I'm like, I want the humidifier on. I just want all my things to be a certain way. So maybe I'm just bringing the humidifier with me on all my travels to short-term
Get you a little travel one. Yeah.
And I think people are craving, especially now, everything is so like social media, AI, all of that. People are craving more of like the personal touches. Yeah. And I think that kind of like, I feel like short-term rentals were that.
Yeah.
And then kind of became much more like of a business, which is still great. Yeah. Great. But then people are still wanting more of that personal touch elements back into their stays. And so how can you bring that back around and still operate it as a business that is efficient and actually can be maintained by the team of people that who are maintaining it?
Yeah. I mean, that's our whole goal as a company right there is like, yes, we're a company. We have a professional level of maintenance and cleaning and inspections and all of those things, yet at the same time to be very personal. And for us, you know, a lot of that is just in the way we communicate with our guests, and then connecting to the local businesses. Like that's a huge thing that Airbnb owners and hosts and managers can do that is a manageable thing. It's
for the active that you're switching over. Yeah. If you have reviews that have comments about things being dirty or something of that realm that is not hitting the mark to multiple guests that are in the reviews. Right. Now as an active rental, you actually have the data to show that this is the case and improve upon it. Yep. Like this one of it was just the rugs that were kind of, you know, they're more of the natural fiber rug, which are nice. And that's like the bohemian look of just, you know, a very common Joshua Tree kind of style. And yet that could be very like hairy, dirty, sheddy. experience that someone might complain in a review that it was dirty. And so we saw some of that here, and that's something that we're swapping for just a refresh in some of those small ways, so that those are you're just utilizing the data to do that.
And I think the data from the reviews are very important and can be really helpful, because there are things that can be approved upon and there are things that can't. So I think it's important to know, like, oh, okay, the rugs, we could change those out.
Easy
That's
swap.
super easy.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody has been mentioning how terrible the neighbor is. That is something to be very, very aware of, and that's not something you can change. So that data is really important.
When should you be gathering that info? When you're looking at the house before you even put an offer?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. I mean, 100%.
So this is part of the before you're even looking. Once you've narrowed it down to these 5 properties you're going to go look at, you should already have compiled data from all their reviews to also, while you're on site, check those things out.
Exactly.
Check out the neighbor, check out the rugs, whatever it may be.
Exactly. And you got to take reviews with a grain of salt as well. So,
but it's a good starting kind of list to create for yourself before you go tour the house.
Yes, exactly.
Anything else that I'm missing that's like high level when it comes to the operation that we should be looking for at the very beginning?
No, I mean, we're talking about looking at the income, costs, reviews, and then permitting. Like all of those things are really,
so we kind of hit all the marks.
And so many people don't do this research. If you're looking, you can start that relation. Like if somebody will come to us and they might not even have a property yet, just to kind of get a sense for how we work. And then as they get closer and they're checking out properties, we're always happy to give projections, and we can raise those red flags and say, oh, I don't think this listing's going to transfer, or whatever it is. Like
on the specifics of like the operations and the Airbnb part.
And your agent's not necessarily going to know.
No.
You know?
Someone wanted to say, hey, I want you to work alongside with my realtor to really help us gather as much due diligence and prepare for this so that we can be, day one operating and feeling good about it. That is an option.
It is an option for us. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if everybody does that, but we would.
All I know is that there's so much to think about.
Yeah.
And so I hope that this video or our chit chat, I don't know, is going to help others be able to make a list of their own or kind of get that guided. But for those of you who made it all the way to the end of the video, I'm Jessica Cure, and I have Cure Designs. I'm a realtor, but also real estate consultant, and I focus on supporting real estate investors and developers and land use, entitlements, permits, renovations, adding ADUs, that sort of thing. And over here we have...
I'm Jenn Gladys, and I own Cocoon, and we're a short-term rental property management company here in the Joshua Tree area. And we focus on high-end wellness, unique stays, and providing very personal service for both our homeowners and our guests.
Yeah, so if you're someone in the market for an active short-term rental, you own one and you need more support, you're going through any of these, this is like clicking for you, like I need more of this, check the links down below and you can reach out. Slams laptop shut, goes to an inspection.